Okay, so I'm not really the type to believe in ghosts or paranormal stuff. I mean, I love a good scary movie, but real life? Nah, that's just Hollywood messing with your head. Or at least that's what I used to think. This happened a couple of years ago when I moved into a new apartment. It wasn't anything fancy, just your standard one-bedroom in an older building. The rent was cheap and the place had a cozy vibe, so I wasn't complaining. The first few weeks were totally normal. I was settling in, unpacking boxes, getting used to the creaks and noises the building made at night. You know, all the usual stuff when you're in a new place. But then, things started to get weird. It was little stuff at first. I'd come home from work and find cabinets open that I knew I'd closed, or lights that I was sure I'd turned off would be back on. I brushed it off as me being forgetful. Long workdays, stress. It made sense, right? But then one night I woke up around 3 a.m. That's the time everyone says spooky stuff happens, right? Anyway, I was thirsty, so I got out of bed and walked down the hallway to the kitchen. As soon as I stepped out of my bedroom, I felt it, like someone was watching me. Now I live alone. No pets, no roommates. But I couldn't shake this feeling that I wasn't alone. I shrugged it off, thinking I was just paranoid from waking up in the middle of the night. But as I walked past the bathroom, I swear I saw something out of the corner of my eye. There was a man standing in the hallway. I froze. My heart was pounding and I couldn't move. I didn't look directly at him, but I could see his outline in my peripheral vision. He was tall, wearing what looked like an old, tattered coat, and his face. I couldn't make it out, like it was blurred or in shadow. I must have stood there for what felt like hours, just staring straight ahead, too scared to turn around. Eventually, I convinced myself that it was just a trick of the light or my half-asleep brain playing tricks on me. So I hurried into the kitchen, got my water, and went back to bed. The next morning, I laughed it off. Sleep paralysis, I told myself. You were just half dreaming. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. For the next few nights, I kept waking up at 3 a.m. Every single night. And every time I had that same feeling, that someone was in the hallway watching me. But I never saw him again, not clearly at least. I started sleeping with my bedroom door closed, hoping it would make me feel safer. It didn't. One night I woke up again, heart racing. I was lying in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself that it was just anxiety. But then, I heard it. A slow, deliberate creaking, like footsteps moving down the hallway. My hallway. I held my breath, listening, praying that it was just the building settling. But the footsteps stopped right outside my door. I could feel this presence, like he was standing there, just on the other side of the door, waiting for me to open it. I don't know how long I stayed like that, frozen in bed, staring at the door, waiting for something, anything to happen. Eventually, I fell asleep out of sheer exhaustion. The next day, I decided I needed to figure out what was going on. Maybe there was some logical explanation, like a draft or a neighbor making noise. So I started asking around the building, talking to some of the older tenants. That's when I found out about the previous tenant, a guy named Mark. He'd lived in my apartment for years, and according to the neighbors, he was a bit of a loner. No one really knew him that well, but one thing everyone agreed on? Mark had disappeared. Just up and vanished one day, leaving all his stuff behind. The building management eventually cleared out his apartment, but he was never found. No forwarding address, no family, nothing. People said he had been acting strange before he disappeared, talking about seeing things in the apartment, hearing voices at night. I couldn't help but wonder, was the man I saw in the hallway him? Was Mark still in the apartment, stuck between worlds or something? I'd like to tell you that I moved out right away, but I didn't. I couldn't afford to break the lease, and honestly, I kept hoping it would stop. That maybe I was just freaking myself out. But things only got worse. The footsteps at night became more frequent, and I started waking up to find my bedroom door cracked open. I never left it open. One night I woke up and the door was wide open, and I swear I could hear breathing. Low, shallow breathing, coming from the hallway. That was it for me. I packed up my stuff and crashed on a friend's couch for a week before breaking the lease. I never went back to that apartment. To this day, I don't know who or what I saw in that hallway. Maybe it was Mark. Maybe it was something else. But I'll never forget that feeling of being watched, of someone standing just out of sight, waiting. And now, every time I walk down a dark hallway, I can't help but glance over my shoulder, just to make sure I'm still alone.